4th of July, a day wrapped in red, white, and blue, a celebration of freedom, of families gathering on porches, children running barefoot through fields, and fireworks lighting up the sky like a promise. But sometimes, under all that noise and light, something else stirs, something darker. You see, not every 4th of July ends with smiles and sparklers. For a few unlucky souls, it ends in silence, in a missing person report, in blood. What you're about to hear are two true horror stories, tied to America's favorite summer holiday. They weren't invented for a campfire. They aren't from a Hollywood script. They come from public records, interviews, and eyewitness accounts. One story takes us deep into the woods, where a young family went off-grid for a long weekend and never came back. The other starts in a small American town. Fireworks high above, a crowd of neighbors below, and ends in screams echoing across the dark. This isn't just a holiday special. This is your reminder that even on the brightest nights, something can be lurking in the shadows. Because when the fireworks stop, all that's left is the dark. In the quiet farmland towns of the American Midwest, July 4th is sacred. It's tradition. It's ritual. In towns like Branford, Illinois, a forgotten farming community off a cracked state highway, it was more than just a holiday. It was the one night a year the entire town came alive. They called it the Branford Boom, a massive fireworks show held in the same open field every summer since 1965. Families would pile in with lawn chairs and picnic baskets. Vendors would line the edge with funnel cakes and lemonade, and that dusty cornfield became the heart of the town. But in 1986, something changed, and no one in Branford would ever look at that field the same way again. The story doesn't begin on the 4th. It begins the night before. July 3rd, 1986. A group of 5 teenagers, friends who had grown up together in Branford, snuck into the fireworks field after midnight. It wasn't unusual. Most kids did it. The field was where they could drink, smoke, joke around, and this year it was supposed to be their last. They were all graduating and heading out of town in the fall. One of them brought a flashlight. Another brought a bottle of cheap bourbon. None of them knew what they were about to stumble into. Around 1:12 a.m., Aaron Wilkes, the quiet one in the group, wandered off from the others. He wanted to explore the treeline. That's when he saw it. In the middle of a shallow dirt patch, not far from where the main launch platform was set up, something was sticking out of the ground. A charred wooden post. As he got closer, he realized it wasn't just a post. It was a scarecrow, or what used to be one. His clothes were mostly burned away. One glass eye hung loose in the burlap face. The hat was melted to its skull. And beneath it, something else caught his eye. Bone. Human. Wilkes screamed, drawing the others over. At first, they thought it was a prank, something left behind from an older generation of kids to freak people out. But when one of them, Jamie Kress, reached down to touch the bone, she said it felt warm, like it hadn't been buried long. They all ran. The next morning, the Branford police were called. They came, took photos, took notes, but never released a public statement. No remains were ever officially documented. In fact, the town's weekly paper never even mentioned it. Just like that, it was gone, or buried again. That night, July 4th, 1986, the fireworks show went on as scheduled. Just before the grand finale, at 9:42 p.m., the crowd heard something they weren't expecting. A scream. A woman screaming over and over again. On the west side of the field, near the vendor stalls, a man had been attacked. Witnesses said it was quick. Some didn't see anything. Others claimed to see a figure. To the crowd. The victim, Peter Malloy, 37 years old, was pronounced dead on scene. Stabbed 3 times in the chest. His wife collapsed. His daughter ran. The fireworks kept exploding in the background. Despite a full investigation, no suspect was ever arrested. No motive, no trace. Over time, the field became a place of silence. Fewer families attended the show each year. By 1992, the Branford Boom was canceled permanently. Some said it was the economy. Others claimed safety concerns. But people who lived in Branford long enough, they whisper a different reason. Local legend says the land used to be a burial ground. Not for war, but for criminals. In the 1800s, it was rumored that the county executed and buried outlaws in those fields, no gravestones, no records. And every time the field came alive with light and sound, it disturbed them, called them back. One of the town's elders was quoted anonymously in a 1994 regional article. That ground don't want celebration. It wants silence. Blood calls blood, and the dead don't like fireworks. In most neighborhoods, the 4th of July is a celebration. Families barbecue, children wave sparklers, and the streets echo with firecrackers and laughter. But for some, especially for those who've been to war, it's not a celebration. It's a battlefield all over again. For retired Staff Sergeant Lyle Denton, the sound of fireworks wasn't patriotic, it was a trigger. And in the summer of 2011, the town of Elmridge, Pennsylvania, found out just how deep those triggers ran. Denton had served 22 years, 3 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. He returned to Elmridge in 2009 with medical discharge papers and a drawer full of prescriptions. He was quiet, private, polite but distant. Neighbors said he walked every morning before sunrise, often stopped at the old war memorial to sit for hours. He never missed a day. Until July 4th, 2011. That year, Elmridge had a larger fireworks show than usual. They were celebrating the town's 150th anniversary. The sky lit up for over 25 minutes straight. But according to the neighbor across the street, the lights in Denton's house flicked off halfway through the show. And that's when the sounds began. Around 10:30 p.m., multiple neighbors claimed they heard what sounded like footsteps inside Denton's home. Heavy, deliberate, pacing. But when one neighbor walked over to check on him, everything went still. Porch light flickered, then died. They knocked. No answer. A curtain moved in the upstairs window, but they never saw a face. The next morning, something strange happened. Denton found a note at his front door. Just 5 words, written in shaky block letters. Make it stop. Please. Stop. No name. No envelope. No fingerprints. He thought it was a cruel joke. Maybe a kid who didn't understand PTSD. But over the next 3 nights, new letters kept appearing. Each more frantic. You're waking them up. It hurts every time they scream. You need to leave. Denton installed a small motion-activated security camera near the porch. On the footage, you can see him go to sleep around 11 p.m. You can also see that no one ever approaches the door that night. And yet, at 6:12 a.m., another letter is there, placed perfectly in the same spot as before. No motion trigger, no footsteps, no shadows, just the letter. That one read, "They're coming." The next evening, local kids riding their bikes past Denton's house said they heard screaming. Not like a man yelling, but like multiple voices, screaming in different tones, from different rooms. But the house was sealed shut. Lights off, curtains drawn. On the morning of July 5th, one of the neighbors noticed Denton's front door slightly open. They called the police. Officers entered the house. What they found was nothing. No Lyle Denton. No signs of forced entry. No packed bags. No struggle. His clothes were still in the closet. His phone still on the charger. Even his morning cup of tea was cold and untouched, still on the table next to his medals. But he was gone. Denton was never seen again. A missing persons report was filed, but with no next of kin and no physical evidence, the case went cold. The town quietly sold the house 2 years later. But the stories didn't stop. Since then, at least 3 residents have moved out of that home within a year of moving in. All of them complain about the same things. Footsteps, voices, notes, and every 4th of July. They say the house shakes as if something beneath the floorboards is trying to claw its way back up. One even said, "The war may have ended out there, but it's still going on inside that house." There are places in America that feel untouched. Places without service, without signal, and some say without rules. One such place is Devil's Ridge, a steep, forested overlook in Northern California, officially part of the Shasta Trinity National Forest. Remote, rugged, beautiful, but not many locals go there anymore. At least, not after what happened on July 4th, 2003. It was supposed to be a peaceful getaway. Nathan Briggs and his girlfriend Emily Foster, both in their early 20s, had driven out from Sacramento for a quiet 4th of July. They wanted to escape the crowds, the smoke, the traffic. Nathan was an amateur nature photographer. Emily brought books and a journal. They pitched their tent on a flat, grassy ridge nearly a mile from the nearest trail, a place Nathan had discovered months earlier during a solo hike. The elevation made it the perfect spot to watch distant fireworks bloom over the treetops. That was the plan. They set up camp just before sundown, ate sandwiches, drank cider, talked about the future. The sky began to darken. In the far distance, soft pops of fireworks could be seen blooming above a nearby town. But then something strange happened. Around 9:27 p.m., Emily pointed to something in the sky. Not the fireworks. Something lower. And red. A light hovering silently above the tree line. No movement. No sound. Just there. Nathan grabbed his camera. But it wouldn't power on. Emily checked her phone. Dead. Nathan's? Also dead. All their devices with fresh batteries were suddenly useless. Then the red light flickered once and vanished. They both laughed it off at first. Maybe a flare, they thought. Or a drone. They crawled into their tent around 10:30 p.m. and zipped it shut. But they never went to sleep. Around 11 p.m. they heard it. Footsteps. Not animals. Not birds. Heavy. Measured. Human. Moving in a circle around their tent. At first, they froze. Then Nathan whispered to Emily to stay still. The steps stopped. And then the zipper on the tent twitched. Nathan burst out of the tent with his flashlight raised. Nothing. Just trees. Emily followed, barefoot, shaking. Then they both heard it from the ridge behind them. A slow, dragging breath. Emily would later describe it as something tall, impossibly tall, with no eyes, no mouth, just a shape. It stood still as stone, watching. Then, with a single jolt, it lunged forward. Nathan screamed at Emily to run. And she did. Emily ran nearly 2 miles in pitch darkness, barefoot and bleeding, before she reached a fire lookout station. Rangers found her just after midnight, hysterical, covered in scratches, and repeating over and over again. It's still up there. Don't go back. But they did. At sunrise, a search party returned to the ridge. They found the tent torn in 2 places. Nathan's camera shattered. His boots sitting upright by the fire pit. His backpack zipped untouched. But Nathan himself was gone. Just beyond the campsite was a burned patch of earth roughly 10 feet across. No explanation. No natural burn patterns. It was charred clean. A piece of Nathan's flannel shirt was found inside it. But no blood. No bones. No tracks leading out. Nathan Briggs was never seen again. Search teams covered over 30 square miles. Drones, dogs, helicopters, nothing. His case remains open. But among locals, it became something else. A warning. They call it the Red Watcher, a presence said to haunt Devil's Ridge during times of celebration. It doesn't like visitors. And it always leaves something behind. Burnt earth. Torn cloth. Silence. Independence Day. A celebration. A ritual of light, of freedom, of noise, of color bursting across the night sky. For most people, it ends with laughter, food, and photos of smiling faces. But for some, for a few scattered across this country's forgotten places, the 4th of July has become a date they never returned from. A point on the calendar that holds more shadows than light. We've just revisited 4 stories. A family lost in the woods with no trace. A town's fireworks show that ended in blood and mystery. A veteran's home haunted by unseen forces and silent screams. And a couple who went searching for a peaceful view only for one of them to vanish into scorched earth and folklore. All on the same day, July 4th. Coincidence? Or something else? Is there something about this holiday, this exact moment, that awakens old ghosts? Or is it the noise, the fire, the celebration itself that hides what we're not meant to see? What if the fireworks aren't masking joy? What if they're drowning out screams? Have you ever felt something watching you on the 4th of July? Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe it was just the silence between the explosions. Or maybe it was something older. Something waiting. If you've ever had a strange encounter on July 4th, a sight, a sound, a feeling that didn't belong, let us know in the comments below. We read every story. Because the truth is, the most terrifying stories aren't made up. They're remembered. And sometimes, they're never told at all. And remember, not all fireworks are man-made.